Welcome back to Brashenomics, everyone. Heather Moore filling in for Ben Brashen. And now joining us is Wes Jones, who is a partner of Home Helper Consultants. And his team has successfully closed over 1,000 pre-foreclosure short sale transactions over the past 6 years. And that's quite a few. Wes, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Heather?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us today. It's been a while since I've seen you.
I know. It's great to be back, and I'm very pleased to be the first guest on the new edition of Heathernomics.
Well, thank you.
It's my favorite one by far.
You're my favorite one.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, it's been a while since you've been here, and, we talk about real estate from time to time on the show.
Yeah, every now and then.
And what I've been hearing is there is a lot of inventory issues, and I'd just like to get, your opinion on it because, you have Lisa, who's your lead buyer specialist, worked with buyers, but you are dealing a lot with short sales, and I have to imagine the inventory and the frustrations people are having with it are affecting you guys. And I just kind of wanted to get your take on what's happening in the market and what buyers and sellers are experiencing.
Yeah, no, great topic of the moment right now. And last week we were down at Keller Williams Family Reunion, which is our big national conference, and it was kind of the topic of the, between agents.
Where was that?
That was down in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And we was down there for about 4 days, and it was really just one of the big topics that we went over and over again as we're talking to other agents around the country, is that they are just seeing a big inventory issue out there, and, most people have far more buyers that they are working with than they have sellers. And, every market is a little bit different, and it's kind of really interesting to get everybody else's opinion on why they thought that was, in their market. But it is something that we're seeing across the country.
Okay, so it's not just us.
No, it's not just us. And I think some of the inventory issues in some of the other markets really started before we started to, feel the pinch here. I felt like, inventory, started going down about a year ago, and we really started feeling it over the summertime. And now it just seems like there's not a lot of choices out there.
Yeah.
I know in King County we're what is it, about 2 months supply of inventory, less than 2 months supply. And that definitely puts us in a seller's market.
And normal market's what, 6 months?
That's correct. It's about 6 months. So I'd like to see us get back to that, more of an even market. But I think we'll get there over time.
So, you said people were talking about why kind of they think we have such low inventory. Was there any interesting things you heard, any opinions you have on kind of why the dearth of inventory is happening?
I've got plenty of opinions. You want to hear those?
I know you do. Yes, I do.
Yeah. I think the overwhelming theme, was that the last 5 years have been tough.
Yeah.
And, home values have gone down across the country, and it feels like we have probably hit bottom. But over those last 5 years, there was a lot of people that have wanted to move, but they couldn't.
Yeah.
Or they did not want to. Their lack of motivation.
And just scared. Scared of it. Is it going to get worse? What's happening?
Scared of the unknown, but also they either could not sell because their home was upside down, or they lacked the motivation to sell because even if they did have equity, there wasn't enough there for what they believed it to be worth, to sell. Then you can go into all the different conspiracy theories with the banks, and obviously working with the amount of short sells that we do, we have a lot of experience with the banks. And, it does seem like there's far more homes going through the foreclosure process that are not being relisted or, as REO product, bank-owned product, or it's happening sometime, down the road. It's not an immediate cause and effect.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that on the show before, how, the short sales and the foreclosures are still happening, but you don't see them popping through on the other end. So banks must have a plan.
Well, yeah, I think banks do have a plan. I think they're also being much more cautious through the foreclosure process. So it is something that is still taking a while. They want to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, so they don't have any more of those $25 billion settlements.
Yeah, and it's probably not a bad thing, but it just, it adds to the constricted inventory we're seeing right now. And then speaking of that inventory, people going through the buying and selling process, how's that affecting them, I guess, both from the buyers and seller side?
Well, it affects them very differently. On the buyer side, It's just super
It's frustrating.
competitive. It
And it's
can be
competitive.
frustrated. And
Yeah.
I know that, Lisa Hampton, who's our lead buyer
Yeah,
specialist.
we'll talk to her about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure she's got a number of stories, but, it affects people differently, but a lot of times it just leads to frustration.
Yeah.
In talking to her last week, they had a solid offer in above listing price, but they were competing against 18 other offers on just one property. So, those good ones definitely are going quickly. And, because there's such low inventory out there, I'd say even, what we would consider an average property maybe a year ago, has maximum exposure right now.
Yeah.
So, if there's just not many choices to choose from, something hits the market, you got to be ready.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to move.
Yeah. And we'll talk to maybe Lisa about what that means in a little bit. But it's hard to get excited about entering the market as a buyer when you might be, you really like a home and then there's 18 other people you're going to have to compete with to get it. I mean, that's kind of a slim margin to win the offer.
It can be. I think it's just all about being prepared. It can also be a really exciting, time to enter the market because affordability right now is at an all-time low.
Yeah.
They're comparing it back to, the late 80s, 87, 88, 89, where although our sales prices are much higher, 2 to 3 times where they were, because interest rates are so low, it's still a great time to buy, but you got to be competitive and you've just got to be ready. You've got to be ready to go out and make that offer, and you've got to have everything lined up so you can close. So I think it's all about expectations and lining yourself up for success. There's not a lot of, just sticking your toe in the water to kind of test things out. That's probably not a good strategy in this market. But, as long as you're prepared, there's still homes that are being, bought and sold every single day.
Yeah. And I do agree with you that it is a great time to buy. I do totally agree. I just think that if you're a buyer going to the market right now, you just, you might have to have the proper expectations of what's going to happen and work with a really good agent who's going to set you up to be most successful because of all the competition that there is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The separation is in the preparation. And
that's a Russell Wilson quote.
Well, and I've heard Ben say it a number of times, so I wanted to make sure we
he's a Seahawks fan.
Yes, he is. I think the most important thing that buyers need to realize what they're up against right now is compared to 2 years ago, there are 40% more buyers out there.
Yeah.
And there is 25% less inventory.
That's a little staggering.
It is staggering. So you just got to know, what you're getting into, be prepared for it, and come in strong.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings us to the seller's side because, more buyers, less inventory. That would indicate, I'm no expert here, but that would indicate to me that it might be a good time to sell your home.
I think it's definitely worth, if you've thought about it over the last couple of years, it seems like we've probably hit bottom and that we're inching our way back up. It's probably, and you've been thinking about it, it's probably a good time to take a look at it, maybe see what the home is worth today. Because, like I said, we're under 2 months supply of inventory. I haven't seen a better time to sell in a long time. It really feels like the good old days of 2006 and 2007 right now. And honestly, I don't know how long it's going to last. So if I'm thinking about selling, I'm probably going to take a look at what those numbers are. I mean, really, what it comes down to is there's very few properties out there, and obviously, less properties are on the market, the more exposure the ones that do hit the market. Now, we're going to keep talking about a seller's market over and over again. It doesn't mean you got to just name your price.
Right.
We are seeing homes go quickly. It's if they're priced right and if they present well. And if you can hit the pricing and you can hit the presentation of the property, you're going to get the high end of the market today. If you miss out on one of those, you're probably not going to get there. So,
yeah, and you want to price your home for what it's going to get appraised for, too, which is something that agents are having a little bit of problems with when the competition gets the homes bidded up a little bit.
I know,
too.
it's crazy. We've seen a couple appraisal issues lately, and that's essentially where a home buyer comes in and they offer a certain price, and the appraisal does not match that price, and the seller's got one of two options. They can either lower the price or they can ask that buyer to step up with cash. And we've probably seen about 5 of those issues so far this year. And I haven't seen those since probably 2007, 2008.
So if you're a seller right now, if you're ready, you've been thinking about, like Wes said, right now might be a good time. And come spring, we have a tricky market right now just due to the circumstances with the last 5 years in the real estate market. But generally, cyclically, things pick up in the spring anyway. So maybe you should get ahead of your competition while you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if somebody's even kicking around the idea, finding a listing agent that you trust that specializes in selling properties, that sells more than 3 or 4 of them, in a year.
A full-time real estate agent.
A full-time real estate agent. Imagine that. And, get a realistic idea of what it could sell for. And if that makes sense for you, give it a shot because, it's going to be exposed to the marketplace and you might be surprised at the results that you get.
Now, before we go to break, circling back around to what you specialize in, Wes, which is short sales. Are short sales still happening?
Short sales are still happening. Also read yesterday that there's a tracking service that kind of goes over short sales and foreclosures that I subscribe to, and they are predicting 1 million short sales nationwide.
Wow, in the next year?
In 2013.
Wow.
So that is down a little bit from 2012.
I was going to say, is that up, down,
it's just down
level?
just a tad.
Okay.
It's down just a tad, but they're still expecting over 1 million. I am as busy as I have ever been answering questions and answering phone calls and consulting with local homeowners. We are seeing an uptick in pricing, but, we landed hard. And the market readjusted hard, and it's still going to be a long time for many homeowners in the area to get to the point where they can break even, and a lot of people just can't wait that long.
Right. Well, you're going to have a busy year. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're planning on it.
Well, that's a good thing. Well, speaking of short sales, I know that you brought with you 7 to 10 frequently asked questions concerning short sales, and I want to get to those, but first we got to go to break. So stay tuned to hear more from Wes Jones. We're going to go over 7 to 10 frequently asked questions he's been getting about short sales, and you're going to want to pay attention with 1 million coming in 2013. It's obviously on people's minds. My name's Heather Moore. You're listening to Wes Jones. This is Brashonomics, and we'll be right back.